I've seen urine specimens with more color. And I'm not even a doctor. I mean, just as a lay person.
Fair.
It's not like I see them every day.
Right.
Hundreds of them every day. I just have seen them, but. Coming to you from the Beer to Whiskey Studios high atop Barley's Tap Room on Washington Street in glorious downtown Greenville, South Carolina. I'm Russ Heaps, and welcome to this episode of Big John in 5. That's where I get my good buddy here, Big John Richards, our newly crowned certified Cicerone, to pick one of the beers from Barley's 72 taps or 50 or 60 cans and bottles. We sniff it, we sip it, we kibitz about it. John tells us a little bit about the brewery, and sometimes we get a little brewing history tossed in there as well. John, what are we doing today?
Well, we're doing a beer that's just in our local Greenville market, so we're doing a very hyper-local little beer here.
If you're outside Greenville County, you can turn off
Well, actually, you have to be almost outside Greenville County, so you have to be there in Spartanburg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. So if you're in Spartanburg, stay with us.
Yeah,
stay with us.
Or if you're planning a trip, you never know.
Yeah.
So these guys are New Groove Brewery and
New Groove.
New Groove Brewery.
Sounds very 60-ish.
Right.
Yes.
As a matter of side note, we did a homebrew competition at Growler Station 10 years ago. You may or may not remember. And the guy that opened New Groove was the silver medal overall winner in our homebrew competition.
Oh, wow.
So he's one of our Greenville homebrew babies.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Jeez. John used to own a joint called the Growler Station, which is really where he and I met and became friends. That was a little ahead of its time for Greenville. And it was in an area of Greenville that just wasn't quite residential yet. And parking in the west end of Greenville is a little tough. So, yeah.
And we miss it every day.
We do. Boy, that's where my Sundays were spent. Pre-smoke on the water. Okay, but I interrupted you.
That's all right. So he's doing some fun stuff up there. He's got a nice barrel program. He does versions of an Angry Tomato beer every year. That's really, really neat. So he's doing some fun experimental things up there. Some really good classic interpretations and styles. And so this one is his Irish Stout called Drink Me, I'm Irish.
I love that.
Pretty fabulous name.
I love that name.
And so it's going to be that clean, dry Irish Stout. It's 5.5%, so it's actually on the big side for what Irish Stout typically is. But even 5.5 is not gonna blow your mind when you're trying to go to get it down. But it's that clean coffee. The history of it is this is going to be that style that was the first diversion from porter, and we point back to Irish Stout when Guinness was brewing. This
is where the history part comes in.
Right.
Go ahead.
So in the late 1700s, Guinness was so big that they brewed 1 out of every 4 beers consumed in the world was a Guinness, and that's just insane. And then in about 1810, I think is the number, they brewed a beer that they called a stouter kind of porter, and this is that kind of interpretation, the reinterpretation, or the modern, whatever we can best interpret as that, what that style probably is. And it's just that little bit bigger. It's kind of in between, like English porter and export stout. And export's the one that gets into the higher alcohol, like 7 and 7.5%.
Sure. Yeah.
So this is still table strength and not necessarily. Just obviously, more alcohol helps beer last longer, as alcohol is its own sort of disinfectant.
This is the kind of thing a monk would serve at his wedding.
Absolutely. This is the kind of thing a monk would serve at his breakfast.
Okay then.
So yeah, this is classic dry Irish stout. So we're gonna jump in and see what we taste in there.
I'm excited.
I know that I've had this beer before, but I don't remember it well enough to know what I'm in for. So I'm hoping for the best.
Text Miss Lily.
Let's do it. I can smell the coffee right on the nose. That roast is just roast.
Coffee gives it, I think, a little more flavor than Guinness.
Yeah.
But it's still sort of a thin.
Right. The body is very lightweight.
Yeah, it's a very lightweight beer.
Coffee, man, that dark roast, almost espresso roast coffee is in there. And it's not aggressive. It doesn't taste burnt, but it tastes roasted. And I mean, this is kind of the way I would like my coffee to taste. There's a little bit of sweetness in there. There's a breadiness in the back that you get out of the base of the malt, but you get that real, almost acrid, almost smoky kind of roastiness that's in there that really sets this apart.
The difference I think that I find between this and Guinness, not only the fact that it's got a little more flavor, but because Guinness is nitro,
Right.
it's got a little better mouthfeel. This is a little thin.
So with the nitro, you get that creamier texture,
right,
and it feels silkier on the tongue. I actually end up preferring this, even though it's a little thinner, because it feels more lively on my tongue. Like,
it does.
It's
I will grant you that.
Yeah,
I will concede that point.
And Guinness is silky and creamy and all of that on purpose, and that's where I think people get mixed up when they're drinking Guinness with the mouthfeel and the weight of the mouthfeel versus the weight of the beer. Because in the same vein, like Guinness is 112 calories.
Right.
This beer, and that's 4.2%. This beer at 5.5 is going to be probably more like 140, but we're still talking about a pretty easygoing calorie load for a beer like this.
And let's just ask the question. I'll just ask the question. Mick Ultra?
Right.
Or drink me, I'm Irish. Mick Ultra, drink me, I'm Irish.
You're gonna save 50 calories, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna tangentialize for a second. Their campaign right now is if you can't enjoy it, why do it? What is it about Michelob Ultra that's enjoyable?
Exactly. It's an ironic marketing
What about
campaign.
that can you enjoy?
That's an ironic market. You
It
know what?
is.
We need to do an episode of this with Mick Ultra, just so we can rant for 5 minutes. But yeah.
Like what? There's nothing to it. There's nothing there. How can you enjoy it? It barely exists.
I've seen urine specimens with more color. I'm not even a doctor. I mean, just as a layperson.
Fair.
It's not like I see them every day.
Right.
Hundreds of them every day. I just have seen them. But, I digress.
Totally true.
I digress. Anything else we should know?
No, this is fun. New Groove is, well, I'm going to have to guess. I'm going to say New Groove is 6 years old.
And they are where?
Boiling Springs.
Okay.
Or if you're from there, Bowling Springs.
Bowling Springs.
Bowling Springs.
It's like New Orleans or Louisville.
They're just to northwest, I guess, of Spartanburg, but basically part of Spartanburg proper up there. So we're definitely one of our local guys, and he's just gotten into canning in the last year, getting his beer out of the market. So we're starting to see some kegs get out in Greenville and some of the upstate, and I'm glad for him. He makes good beer up there.
I'm happy you chose this.
Excellent. Me too. Cheers.
So damn lucky. See you next time.